For News Corp, the challenge is how do you make each individual brand excellent, but how do you make the whole collection of businesses under the News Corp umbrella as good as they can be? So it's very different. News Corp is a big sprawling company, offices in New York, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Australia, in the UK. How do you make all these brands more than the sum of their parts? We have 4,000 people in technology. They need to work together more. So we're building platforms, sort of wonky things like content management, identity management, global APIs, but to translate that into product, it's really a great user experience, great storytelling tools for our journalists, really enabling innovation throughout the company and forming the building blocks of innovation.
What are the opportunities for a big content publisher like News Corp?
I think it starts with having excellent products that people want to read and interact with every day or multiple times a day. You can't have a strategy without having a great destination site of your own, whether that's a native app or a mobile app or a desktop site. So I always start back to the basics. How do I give the readers of our brands the best experience possible, and how do I enable our journalists with the tools to be truly innovative storytellers? After that, it's all about how do you monetize that experience, and it's two traditional ways, advertising and subscriptions. The age of Donald Trump has been great for quality journalism. One of the unintended consequences, I think, of his presidency, Wall Street Journal has been knocking it out of the park. The Times in London, probably not as effective, but Brexit has been good for them. Certainly we've seen the success of other publishers as well. I think what it proves is that people are willing to pay for quality news and information, but the real challenge is digital advertising.
Tell us sort of your thoughts about the state of the hygiene, if you will, perhaps for News Corp properties, but more broadly, and what the industry needs to do.
I think anytime there's money involved, you're going to have a criminal element, and you have to understand that that's never going to go away entirely. So that we're on an evolutionary path where our readers are being more educated, just as consumers within and employees within companies are educated about phishing and spam. So I think the major platforms need to help us educate our audience and ensure quality advertising, quality metrics, quality measurements for all brands. I think we'll see an ongoing shift to mobile and the smartphone in particular, but the real thing that has come to the fore in the last year is voice computing. So Amazon Echo, Google Assistant, Samsung's new entrants, Microsoft. I see voice being embedded everywhere, and this sort of ambient computing, just asking Alexa for the news, for the weather, for directions, to shop with. That's going to be an increasing part of people's interaction with devices.
And how will you guys play in that space?
So we've built a platform based on our Messenger bot platform to build Alexa skills and Google Actions, and are beginning to experiment in terms of how we distribute our content and how we get paid for our content when it's voice activated. It's still early days, but we know that you can't innovate if you're doing it from a position of fear. You have to kind of go in it with the guide rails around what you're going to let the platforms have and what you're not. What's happened recently with fake news or false news, and the role that Google and Facebook and others played in our recent election and in general has awoken the major platforms and many others to both the dangers of fake news and the promises of quality journalism. So it's important for us to stay on these platforms, but in a way that makes sense for our businesses and our readers. So in the beginning, everybody was sort of rushing to put their content on Facebook or giving Google all of their content just because they wanted the traffic and the distribution. It's clear that that's a model that's not sustainable, but on the other hand, you can't pull back entirely either. So there has to be a balance in middle ground. What I would say in general is that what news organizations can learn from Silicon Valley and the major platforms is this way of iterating and experimenting their way toward the truth or toward the better outcome, instead of having a more ideological approach.